Hey guys, AQG back again with another video. This time I'm here to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while. Since we've got Shadow Generations last October, and now we're in the middle of 2025, I think it's a fair assumption to expect the next big Sonic game, or the mainline game, in like 2026 somewhere. Hopefully they don't delay it to 2027. So I figured now's a good time to drop my thoughts on where we are, where did Shadow Generations leave us, what should we expect moving forward for this franchise. So to start us off, I figured the first thing that needs to be mentioned is how I view Shadow Generations. And basically, I look at this game the same way I look at how Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic 2 took what the previous game did and focused in on what they really wanted to make. Note, I know Sonic Adventure 1 fans, I know why you would prefer Sonic Adventure 1 over Adventure 2, but my point is more about a sequel's ability to focus in on what aspects they want to flesh out and drop what they don't need. So, moving on, Shadow Generations does that very well in my opinion. It takes what the foundation that Sonic Frontiers gave us and made almost every single aspect better in my eyes. So, in this video, I'll briefly highlight some improvements Shadow Gen's made in the first half, and then the second half would be like what I'd like to see in the next game / what the series should evolve to. So I guess I should mention this now, seeing as this is a relatively new channel and my opinions on the majority of the Sonic games aren't really out there yet. So I think Frontiers was a good game. I like it. I think the game was a success overall and established the formula that the future games can work off of, but we definitely didn't get there without a couple bumps. The game struggles in many areas, a couple of them we really shouldn't be struggling with, in my humble opinion, and it prevents it from being one of my favorites in the series. I might put it in my top 10, I'm not 100% sure, but it's not something I go back to over like a bunch of other classics that I just think did a whole better job overall. But side note, I might review these games in the future, so I'll save my full thoughts for that. But as for now, we can go over a few points and how Shadow Gens improves over them. So like for example, first and foremost, the overall polish of the game. The game's presentation is so much better than Sonic Frontiers. From how the menus are handled, to how they teach you mechanics and overall progression. You can see it the most in two aspects really. For one, the pop-in, and how Shadow interacts with the terrain he walks on. So first, the pop-in. The pop-in in Frontiers was so bad and all over the place. I mean, you got used to it after a while and all, but in high-speed open-world game about collecting things and solving puzzles and going as fast as you can, you know, it would sure help to see where things are beforehand. So Shadow handles this much more elegantly. Pop-in is still there, obviously, and it always will be in any game. That's not the issue. But they don't make it so obvious here, which leads to a cleaner experience overall. The second and much more important point, in my opinion, that helped the game's polish, is how Shadow interacts with the terrain. In Frontiers, when you move around with Sonic, he stutters around the terrain, depending on where he's walking, of course. And by stutters, this is like the best way I can describe it. You're seeing footage of what I mean right now, and how he interacts with the terrain overall. So depending on if there's any rocks in his path or something like that, or any tiny objects that can make him react. And it just felt kind of broken, to be honest. I don't know why it was like that. It just felt like the design of the world wasn't made with the character's strength in mind. Not to mention, it affected gameplay as well. It made it difficult to know what you can use to launch yourself off of, or if Sonic will just, you know, stick to the ground like glue. It still exists in Shadow Generations, of course, since it's the same engine and all, but the environment is designed much more thoughtfully so that it isn't obvious and they can hide the cracks in the code like that. And to find any instances of that, you actually really have to look for it. This makes a huge difference for me. It's much more fun to move around in Shadow Generations because of this alone. So, the second point is game progression. I love how we're back to traditionally long stages, like 3 to 5 minute stages, as opposed to those bite-sized stages from Sonic Frontiers, the Cyber Sage ones, that were primarily reused level layouts from previous games. I know that was like the gimmick of Frontiers, but I can't help but look at it as an excuse as to why that was included that way. And I know Shadow Generations goes back to this 3 to 5 minute stages because it's supposed to be like the sequel to Sonic Generations, so it's kind of like paying homage to it and taking the same formula as it. But I really hope future games can give us like traditionally long and fully packed stages to enjoy alongside the open world. Speaking of which, number 3, the open world. So I like how the mini puzzles were taken out in favor of more speed-based challenges. Personally, I don't really care for random minigames for the sake of variety. Like, I get having like some small stuff out there to give you a break from the main content of the story or the what you're here for. Like sometimes you can slow down, you know, do this quick puzzle, like something that tickles the brain cells a bit, and yeah, we hop back into it. But for the most part, pick a theme and some mechanics that your game will focus on and refine those as much as you can. I also love how the collectibles are handled in Shadow Gens. Obviously it's done in a similar way to Sonic Generations, but they give you a reason to explore the open world, and not just that, I love how they tie them to the stages themselves. So you'd have to find the collectibles in the stages, like those emblems or those rings or whatever, and then you can take those from the stages and find the chests in the open world to unlock your music and illustrations and whatnot. Finally, the pop-in is handled so much better here. I know I already mentioned this earlier, but I'm bringing it up again because they even handled the floating obstacle courses that were all over the place in Frontiers in a much better fashion. Now, you can, in the Chaos Island section, you can press some switches that are laying around, and the obstacle courses will appear, and then they'll disappear after a while. And that's like a neat solution so that they don't clutter the world as they did before. So yeah, and the fact that they put that in the Chaos Island segment of the map is it's a pretty nice touch in my opinion. I really like it. Number 4, the difficulty. So the last major talking point I have is about the difficulty curve in the game and how well it's handled. I'm a believer in games testing their players on the core game mechanics. I'm not saying every game has to be Dark Souls or anything, but making a game so easy that you don't even need to think or engage with the systems or mechanics given, it just makes it so that it takes away all the skill expression and I'm never paying attention at the game, because they never ask me to. Of course, the opposite is also not good, having the game be a cakewalk the whole way through, then suddenly throwing an impossible challenge your way near the end, is also not good, and it's gonna leave a bad taste in people's mouths, much like what happened with Sonic Frontiers and the Final Horizon DLC. Here though, the difficulty is very smooth with its scaling. The game still tests you near the end on its mechanics and makes sure you're paying attention, and I think the climax of the game, Radical Highway, is a pretty great level. At least level design wise anyway. Alright, so here, I'll try as best as I can to keep this limited to improvements to Shadow Generations and Sonic Frontiers, and not a general expectation of what I'd want in a mainline 3D game, because I know that's a whole topic in of itself. So first, let's get the easy ones out of the way. I hope the next game doesn't regress back from the progress that Shadow Generations made. I only feel the need to say this because I know they're likely being worked on by separate teams, so some things might slip through the cracks, but I can't prove that, of course. I hope the game is as polished as Shadow Generations though. I hope the writing is as good, and the story is somewhat engaging, and there are meaningful character interactions like the last 2 games gave us. I hope it retains the quality of the main stages we got here, even if it will be an open world game. We can have both, guys, we don't have to pick one or the other, please. And I wish the difficulty will also scale similarly to what we got. It doesn't have to be impossibly difficult, but also I would like it to actually challenge you and not be how like the last decade's games were, where you just clear it without even thinking or trying. So yeah, it's the easy ones out of the way that I was just talking about. Now, for some things that I want improved over Sonic Frontiers that weren't in Shadow Generations. So first and foremost, I know this won't happen as the next game will likely just build off the same engine and base they already have for Shadow Generations, but it would definitely be nice to have some momentum-based platforming in the game. It doesn't have to be as extreme as the fan games if you guys been keeping up with those. Those are basically solely reliant on momentum, not much else, and not much, guiding in the stages and what we have here. It's a lot more automated. But I certainly love it if they kind of like tried to establish a mix, go back to like some Sonic Adventure based platforming. Not saying Sonic Adventure 3, but you know, a similar thing. And for those who are saying, hey, the boost is here, it's gonna conflict with the momentum, it doesn't really matter anyway, I'll be honest, personally, I think the boost can just take a break for a while. I know they're probably not gonna do that, because they're probably gonna take everything as it was, but with the rate that the games have been going, they've already been slowing down anyway. Like, these games are not as fast as Unleashed and Generations. So, I'm hoping they slow it down a bit, have some more open level design, but try to retain the speed. There's a balance they can strike there. So, yeah, that's the first point I'd like. Second, the combat. It needs some reworking. I wouldn't say too much, but there are two aspects that I'd like to highlight that'll give the combat some direction. Number one, there needs to be something we build up if we play well, and it gives us like a reward system in the combat. Think the ranking system in DMC, for example, or a damage boost or something like that. If you perform combos well, don't get hit, you know, use some variety, all that, then you're rewarded by either doing more damage, by a better ranking if they're gonna rank the combat or something like that. Like, I mean, come on, even Spark, the electrical jester, did this better by having you deal more damage if you use a variety of moves and avoid taking damage. So that'll help players, that'll give players a goal in every combat encounter, so they know what they need to do and what they need to get better at. The second aspect I'd like them to rework is more variety in terms of the movesets Sonic has. In Sonic Frontiers, every move was functionally the same. It was just a different button combination and a set animation would play out. And most of the moves did the same thing, deal damage, and that's about it. And you can chain them however way you want. I would love if we give Sonic some variety in the moves. Things like a launcher, a way to slam enemies down on the ground once you juggle them in the air, even a way to launch them further in the air and combo them there, maybe a way to close the distance between enemies, that should be easy for Sonic's speed, grouping attacks, crowd control and AoE attacks, a projectile move. I know Frontiers already had this, but it needs to be limited somehow. It can't be just, you know, unlimited, because it's very spammable and you can just use it forever. So yeah, those are like my main two suggestions and my hopes for the combat in the next game. So with that out of the way, this next segment here is just going to be spitballing a couple of like smaller things that I would want. I think most of us can agree on these. So let's get her done. So, new locations, new cool locations, and not reusing old level designs for the 15th time. Not giving out S ranks like participation trophies. Please. Don't put in flashy set pieces in the open world platforming. It gets in the way. Save those for the main levels. I don't want to, like, while I'm exploring, hit a dash pad and just launched into like this obstacle course or whatever that I didn't even want to do or I've done before. And speaking of which, because I remember Chaos Island as I say that, ditch the 2D, please. It just feels lazy at this point and they just fall back on it when they have nothing to put in 3D. A unique art style would be nice to help give the game its own identity. And the level design. I already mentioned this point earlier, where the level design, the games are slowing down a bit, but we're still using the level design formula and strategies of like Unleashed and Generations. Like I remember in Shadow Generations we have a quick step segment. In Sonic Frontiers we had those as well on like some of the bosses, and they're not challenging or anything at all. Take those out. Focus on more open world, open level platforming like you know, Kingdom Valley and Chaos Island and Shadow Generations are really good open stages. Exploring those stages and trying to go as fast as possible with Shadow's current moveset or Sonic's, whoever you're playing, I think that would be fun. So yeah, with that all being said, that was like the major points that I wanted to make for this video. I felt the need to make this video because playing through Shadow Generations these past couple of months ever since it dropped, I was really impressed by the improvements they made to Sonic Frontiers. I guess it's because Sonic Frontiers sold pretty well and was a much bigger success than they were anticipating it, which I can understand, seeing how like the game kind of feels like in some areas really unfinished, and but the fact that it came out the way it did gave them the motivation to like improve it. And seeing how Shadow Generations looks, I genuinely hope they stay on this track, and whatever mainline game we're getting next, just knocks it out of the park with whatever they're going to be making or doing. Just take what you already did well before and improve it as best as you can. And, you know, that's basically all we're asking for. We're not asking for too much here, I don't think. So, before I wrap this up here, I just want to stress that this isn't my ideal Sonic game that I'm describing here. Honestly, if it were up to me, the game wouldn't even be open world. I would rather just go back to the linear formula we're used to and just refine that. But that doesn't matter. What matters now is where we are in the present, and even if I don't fully agree with the game's directions that they're taking now, I really appreciate the improvements that are being made, and I respect it so much. So I'm making this video in the hopes of someone out there to see it. I know it's a smaller channel, but hey, maybe, I don't know. Someone to see it and echo these points to them so that we can get this to them and they would just keep down this track, and we'd like end up like next year or 2027 or whenever with like a banger, and then a banger after that, another banger after that, and we just, you know, that's the dream. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say for this video. If you have any recommendations or any opinions you have of your own that you disagree with, and please let me know with the comments. I love talking about this stuff, seeing what people think. This is such a unique franchise and unique fan base that we have here, so it'd be fun to see your thoughts in the comments. If you've made it even this far and you're watching the outro right now, thank you so much for making it this far. I greatly appreciate it. Any feedback in general, any type of content you want to see, please let me know down in the comments as well. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.